Hey everyone. Well, first of all, before we start the serious part, I just want to congratulate everybody because it's been a long year. This is what I can just say from probably everybody's thinking about this, but it's been a very long year. We had a nice little push here in the beginning of the year, but then the last 6 or 7 months, it's been massive, massive chop on Bitcoin. It almost looked like we are not going to have a proper bull market. It almost looked like everything is over at like 55 to 48K. And yet, obviously, with the positive catalysts we had in the last week or so, we are at $80,000 for Bitcoin. It's just crazy. Um, we've been all waiting for this, hoping for this, but you know, it's good to take a moment and just appreciate where we are because it hasn't been easy, and I'm not expecting it to get any easier from here actually. But definitely, one side of the trading will be a lot easier compared to the last several months of price action. So today we're gonna cover the basics. We're gonna look through some charts. I've made some position changes. We're going to look into some rules, and obviously, we're going to look at the scenarios of what potentially could be happening in the next few weeks and how to position towards the end of the year. So first of all, on the monthly, we still have about 20 days to close this month, so too early to call it, but very nice and clean breakout here. This could be, I discussed this like a month or two ago. This could be the beginning of another price leg higher. And we have consecutive months of green, something like this leg after the consolidation we have. And if we are to have a bull market, it just makes sense because once we break out of a massive accumulation that we had right here, and if, of course, this is not a fake out, it makes sense for the trend to start accelerating. It will be in line with all the cycles previously, and all the things like we have a pro crypto president now. Hopefully, if, nothing wrong happens to him in the next few months. It just makes sense for this to start accelerating to the upside. Of course, this is the bullish side. We're going to discuss it a bit more in detail, but I just want to go over the bearish case because there is still, in my opinion, opportunity for this to fake out. Obviously, on the monthly chart, as I said, we have till 20 days to go, and we could see something like this. So everyone's euphoric already. Everyone's like super happy, and it should be, it should be like this. But if we have a candle like this, but on the other side, so if we have, um, you know, ripping here through 80, and then suddenly towards the end of the month, we start puking down and close above the previous all-time high, and then confirm this as resistance, I would see this as probably the most bearish scenario right now that we could have. On the weekly, we could see it even better. This is a really nice, we're aiming for a really, really nice close here on the weekly. Obviously, we have a few more hours, but I don't believe we're going to get a weekly close below the previous all-time high. But on the weekly, again, if you see something like this, like not a continuation, maybe something like this to the upside. If we don't see this, and if we see just a straight puke in the next couple of weeks, and then confirmation that we're back under resistance, then this will be a really clean signal, in my opinion, to just, probably close most of your risk exposure, because we'll be we'll be for some bad times if this plays out. And that's actually, my strategy here. Generally speaking, I'm currently mostly allocated. I still have some cash to allocate to crypto and to Ordinals in general, but I'm almost fully allocated from the last few days. And obviously, if I start seeing something like this in the bearish case, I would be more than willing to close all of my risk exposure to make sure, we don't get something really nasty in the coming months. What could cause this? Who the hell knows? The best guess I can give you is that maybe we get a recession in 2025, But my hope is, and actually my idea is that we'll probably get a bull market before a recession, if we get a recession. Because again, we could have a soft landing. Who knows? The economy is still doing all right. Fed is cutting rates now, so maybe we'll get something that will just continue upwards. But if we get a recession or a black swan that happens, I always talk about this every month, pretty much on these calls. If we get this, it probably will be unexpected, but it won't be such a big surprise, honestly, because everybody's been talking about this as a scenario. And that would be probably the most bearish situation that we could have on crypto. Other than that, we are basically in the best spot we've been for like an eternity for risk assets. Because right here, we've been playing this Bitcoin cycle, all the way from here. My first buys from this cycle were like in the 15, 16K area. Then we added 20K. Then on the catalyst, like the ETF, again, we were adding here through like 28, if I remember correct. We were adding last year in September. And obviously, we traded very well the whole trend. Last few months have been difficult for me personally, and I haven't been performing well. But now it seems like my last buys were here around 61K. I had some ads here around 67 on the daily. Maybe we can see it a little bit better. Once we were testing this, but with all the uncertainty of the elections, I decided to cut some of my exposure. Obviously, in hindsight, this was, maybe a mistake, but honestly, I don't even consider it as a mistake when you do the analysis, because um, it was really unknown what's going to happen on the elections. And Bitcoin was breaking down below this level after I bought the support here, which didn't hold. And I was like, okay, I'm not cutting all of my risk exposure, but I want to limit it a bit in order if, some fuckery happens, and I don't want to just be back holding a bunch of shit that probably goes much lower. Obviously, the catalyst when Trump got elected was clean, and we had a clear breakout the following day above the all-time high. But then the last few days, like from Thursday to today, basically, we were like somewhere in this area right here. And I was like, okay, so if we are to really kick off a nice bull market also for the altcoins, because I've been big on altcoins, but I've pretty much lost money on them since the last 2 years, pretty much. This needs to not only hold, but show even more strength. So by this, I mean Bitcoin. Because we want Bitcoin to be clearly, very clearly, like we are right now, above support. We don't want this support actually to even be tested, if you ask me. And that's why I was like, okay, the last hurdle is for us to, maybe chop here, retest this level, confirm it again as support, and then blast off. Maybe this won't happen now that we're so much higher. Maybe we will. We'll see. But now, after we crushed another leg higher in the last couple of days during the weekend, although yes, the liquidity is lower and so on. But now that we have a higher area here to play with around 80K, I would say that even if we get a sell-off and even if we touch this area around 75K, it's higher probability now that we are going to bounce. And it's also a higher probability that even if this leg to the downside happens on Bitcoin, quite possibly at that time, some altcoins will actually start pushing really hard, because still Bitcoin is the dominant asset. If we see the BTCD chart, it's starting to sell off here. But as you can see, that's only in the last like 3 or 4 days. And even today, like it's starting to, push a little bit higher. But we are still, oops, sorry. But if we go to the weekly, we are still in a very clear uptrend for Bitcoin dominance. And we want this to start going much lower. So next, like down to even the 50% and even maybe lower for a proper out season. And it just hasn't been the case yet. But now, maybe we get a leg a little bit lower to again this area. But now that we're so much higher than the all-time high, previous all-time high, so we're clearly like 7-8%, which for Bitcoin is significant. It was 10% at some point. This is very, very good. And at some point, we'll get some kind of a pullback for sure. It could be next week. We could get back into this area right here that I've marked around 76, 75, 76. If you go down to the 4 hour, there's a nice cluster here that could play some support. And I would want it to play support here. I don't really don't want us to get closest below previous all-time high, even on a deeper pullback. But this area around here, it plays an interesting level to look for dips, specifically on outs, because, okay, Bitcoin is starting to get huge. It's over 1.3 million, 3 trillion, 1.3 trillion is the market cap of Bitcoin. So this thing, yes, it could moon, and there are some catalysts that we're going to discuss in a bit. But really, altcoins will have a party if we have a shallow pullback. And this is what I would expect to happen. Previously, when we start a run, like even here, you could see this clearly. Like on the daily chart, we don't have a pullback at all. It doesn't give us an entry. Like it doesn't give us a pullback entry at all until it's way above the breakout level. So if we take this as a breakout level around 43K, the first correction was after 22% move. And then the actual correction from the top, it was just around 4 or 5%. So this is what we want to see. This is exactly what we want to see. And we're going to have a big gap here because we did this move during the weekend. And I would really want us to have shallower pullbacks here. As I said, anything that gets too deep and it doesn't get bought up very quickly, then you should be concerned. But any shallow pullback, you should be looking to load the backs if you haven't already. And if you're feeling FOMO, because we're starting to see easy mode. And we're starting to see a lot of altcoins popping. Today, they're retracing a bit now with this Bitcoin move. People are still a bit scared. You could tell this by like the price action. I will show you some charts in a bit on the altcoin side. But really, it's one of the best opportunities that we're going to get if we have a pullback for a potential another leg higher. And I really believe that this is when the altcoins, the real altcoin season could potentially start. And if we look into the weekly, I'm talking a lot, but I think it's important to do good analysis. If we look into the weekly chart, just to go back a bit, this candle technically, even if we get back to this level around 67, this is support now. And this is like the absolute invalidation if you're like, okay, if we start breaking below this, it's probably game over, at least for the foreseeable future. But as I said, I really don't want us to get there. I want a shallow pullback, and then I'll start ripping. And some signals are already here, like Ethereum, for example. Look at this. Look at this chart. This screams like a pullback, but everybody, and me specifically, I was expecting a pullback around this area, around 3K, because it was consolidating, but it was consolidating much lower than Bitcoin. And I was like, okay, if this breaks out, this is a lot of area that we need to cover and break out of. And I was expecting we could have a pause here, or at least a pullback. And this marked area here around 2.6, 2.5 was like, okay, if we get something like this, so if we get like a nice pop and then a retest of this area, this will be the perfect entry for a continuation. But now that I'm seeing like the size of the candles and of the move here on the Ethereum, I would be willing to bet this area right here. So this now needs to hold as support for Ethereum. But it's great to see that for this leg here, and we can see this on BTC or ETH BTC. Now, as you can see, we're starting to see Ethereum, at least this week, starting to outperform Bitcoin. We're still in the gutter, and there's still this level that is around 0.04 that we need to get over. But they're just the first signs that altcoins are starting, to look better than what they used to. And this just happened in a 1 weekly candle of 30% or so. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout of continuations, but definitely also, at least for me, I'm not scared to take breakouts right now because I've been avoiding breakouts like the plague for the past year or so, even more like 2 or 3 years, because they've been always like a fake out, like very many, like just on Bitcoin. This is on Ethereum, sorry, just on Ethereum. Look at this. You might say, okay, this was the leg up. We consolidated here. Okay, now a breakout of this key area into here, and then we picked again. It's this has been the theme of breakouts all over the place. There have been very rarely breakouts that play out clean. And I think this is about to change. And that's why I positioned myself for some breakouts. I do have some good positions from lower, of course, but also like I'm taking breakouts that we're going to discuss. And this is one of the reasons as well that Ethereum is starting to look much, much better. And now, although there's a potential for a correction, that would be just another opportunity to like finish my portfolio and kind of update all the positions that I want to be holding at least in the midterm. Because once we are in a bull run, it's like it's much harder to manage your emotions and the FOMO and all these things than to manage your positions because pretty much everything could go up, and whatever you're holding, you'll be doing all right. Maybe some tokens will outperform, maybe some will underperform others, like in your portfolio, but that's fine. It's you're here to take the meat of the move, not to trade every pip and or to jump from one altcoin to another. Yes, you could take profit and rotate and so on, but it's just such kind of season and environment. If of course this continues, that it could be easy mode for a little bit while, and that's why I want to be 100% in crypto and risking much more than I would usually because the potential here for gains is much higher. All right, with this out of the way, let's just quickly look at Solana. There you go. So Solana again, also very good on the weekly chart. Oh, some drawings here. Let me just get rid of them. Uh, we are very close to all-time highs, and I think this is also a very crucial level. We've basically popped every single resistance from here, like from this last retest on the election day around 160, another like 27, 28% candle, and we've been breaking out all the levels, and it looks like this is going to close above 200, which is a huge number for Solana. And the potential here also is huge. I personally don't hold Solana. I'm playing it through the ecosystem, stuff like Jupiter, Python, and a few others potentially that I'm going to be positioning myself into. But you can see this chart looks very strong. And if you are into Solana, now we could use already fib extensions here for targets, and something like 300, 400, I believe are reasonable targets. This could go much higher. Don't get me wrong. This could really get ridiculous at some point and maybe hit $1,000. But I would definitely be scaling out of at least taking some profit at each like round emotional number, depending on the price action, of course. But this thing is already at a huge market cap, and the ecosystem has been booming. So I can see this doing very well. But again, we don't want to be moon boys. Like this is probably the most important thing in bull markets, to not forget to take profit and not over manage your positions. Okay, so with all of this said, let's just go through some of the positions that I still have and I'm still holding, and some that I entered recently. So on the weekly, just a picture perfect chart. We traded this extremely well from the top here. I had some tries here on continuation pattern around 1.1, 1.3. In this area, didn't work out, but now it seems like this is starting to reaccumulate, and potentially this range could break out. We already had another test today. You can see that we're closing just below it. My entry is somewhere around here around 0.7, 0.69, 0.7. I added a bit. I DCA'd, I think it was yesterday here around this level as we were reclaiming it. Maybe we could chop around here. Maybe we could do this, something like this, and then break out. But I think the probability of this breaking out is higher and higher. And I really like this position. It covers many narratives for me that I like, and I just like the chart as well. So I'm doubling down on Ondo. Also ZK. ZK is pretty much the same chart, but as an alternative play. Ooh, sorry. You could see again that this is probably the only L2 that looks decent chart wise, and it hasn't been dumped on like crazy. And there's potential that they might do some more airdrops and stuff, and their ecosystem is still quite good. So just looking at the chart again, quite a few retests here already on the 15 cents level. And potentially this could really start accelerating as Ethereum also starts catching some bits above 3,000. My entry here is around 12 or 13 cents. I remember my average. I added a bit today, but not too crazy as size. So I'm just patiently waiting for this to develop. A breakout that I started scaling in is Superverse. This is a gaming play. I honestly don't like this wick right now, but it's okay because I'm taking an earlier breakout at this level, but really the all-time high breakout is somewhere around here. So I'm a little bit front running this. But that's okay. I can add a bit more size. This is an area that I've marked as potential for me to scale up this position. But this has been the one of the top performers overall of the cycle, and it's just a pattern that has shown consistent strength. And I like this as a gaming play as well. Many again, it ticks many boxes. It's on Coinbase, good market cap, fully diluted is not crazy. A lot of things that I like. Another one that I'm anticipating a breakout on the AI side is EOS. Very clean chart again, even on the weekly, great retest. This just screams at me that it wants to continue higher. Let's see if that will be the case. And obviously I have a bunch of other positions. Sui and Aptos could play catch up. So Sui had a nice breakout the last couple of days. Again, one of the stronger performers, all-time high breakout. So clear skies above. And it's just ripping. It's just really ripping. Similar with Aptos. Aptos is lagging, but again, showing strength above this level. So as you can see, plenty of charts to look at, plenty of things to track. There's still some laggards in my portfolio, like Prime. I'm underwater here, but as you can see, it's showing some strength here and a potential of reversed head and shoulders. So I'm patiently just waiting here. I have an average size that I like here. I may be adding on some strength. Zero is another one that's lagging, but again, it's catching up and it's just accumulating here. You can see the chart. So just go through charts, pick your poison, if you would say. You'll miss stuff. You'll probably catch many things. Let me just give you an example. Parcel is a token that I've been shilling to my friends like crazy. And yeah, so I would just delete the levels. I think this is a good learning experience and why I like buying strength at these conditions. So Parcel for me, this was the pattern, like accumulated very, very cleanly, many touches around this level. This was around the elections, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait patiently for the breakout. This happened while I was sleeping, and somewhere around here, so it was about 5 to 10% already away from my potential entry. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna chase this. I'm not gonna chase this because I want to be disciplined and blah blah blah. All the good things that a trader should do. However, as you can see, there's been a crazy run up in this one. It's been like from the breakout 100% up or so at some point today. And some people got into this, after I've discussed it with them, but I didn't. So potentially a very nice, very interesting, I would say, real world asset slash Solana ecosystem play. Look at it. It's still at low valuation. And you'll see that it's a it's a potential for a big gainer, in my opinion, in this market cycle. And I'm still looking for an entry on this one potentially. And yeah, just an example for things that you'll be missing. It's impossible to catch everything if we even like start discussing the rule side, which we will in a bit. Yeah, it's pretty insane. It's pretty intense. I see some questions, so let me just cover them. Okay. What price point do you suggest for Dogecoin? Dogecoin to $1. Haven't you been on on Twitter recently? Everybody's screaming about this. But Dogecoin really like it's a very interesting coin because technically I'm not trading this. I'm not interested just because they're fresher memes. And this has a lot of price history, but there's always a massive catalyst with Doge related to Elon. So you can see clean accumulation, quite choppy because the swings here on the price were huge. We had very good pattern that I love trading. First sign of strength, correction, it holds higher accumulation, and then it just rips. So very, very clean pattern, hold this level, and then just ripped. And honestly, this is the catalyst for this again was the election, but most importantly, Elon is gonna get into the government now, and he's gonna open this department of government efficiency, which is the Doge, and he's talking about it in the podcast with Joe Rogan and so on. So again, there's a catalyst for this to go ballistic, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get to $1. It's a way higher from here. So Doge for you know for people that still want to get into it, again, I would just look for entries because this weekly close, let me just clean this up. This weekly close tells me that if we get correction, that would be a nice tip because now we have a clean structure of higher high, higher low, higher high again, and now any retrace into this area around 20 cents, I would say it's a buy for Doge and targeting all-time highs here around 60, 70 cents and maybe potentially higher. So yeah, that's Doge. Let's go to the next one. Where you can see the market cap on TradingView. You can't. I don't think you can. Most of the tokens that I'm interested in, I know the market cap, or what I do is I write it on the side. Let me see if I have one here. No, maybe this one. No. Anyway, I usually write it down for the tokens of interest that I don't know the market cap, somewhere around here. Just as a remark. I think I had it on iOS. Anyway, yeah, there it is. So I just write the level and I'm like, here it's like 500. But you can go on CoinMarketCap and you'll see it. All right. So let's cover some ordinals and runes. They have been warming up, if you ask me. We haven't really gotten into a real bull market yet for runes and for ordinals. The volume is still shit, but we're starting to see. Let's just go first over some collections. So you can see that puppets. I've been in puppets since 0.13. Puppets have been flipping node monks, and now like we are, above that. And I think we are here to stay. Like puppets, clearly the best meme of the entire cycle. Gizmo is also one that's catching up, but that's obviously related to puppets. I still have some gizmos from the mint and some tokens, of course, that we're going to discuss in a bit. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with puppets, ordinals, OMB, obviously, and maybe quantum cats, although they've been selling off. Yeah, it's been getting tricky with some of those. Bitcoin wizards, obviously, with the magic internet money catalysts. But I would just for now stay with puppets as a. If I have to choose one gun to my head, I would be puppets. But what I'm also noticing is that tokens are outperforming JPEGs, at least for now. We are in a token environment, and I wouldn't be surprised if tokens start running really hot, and then we rotate into JPEGs. So yeah, I'm just holding this. I'm not really trading and accumulating stuff. I do have a bunch of Bitcoin frogs, insurgents, and what was the other one? Aeons. These are like my few picks that I have, and I'm honestly fully packed here. I'm not really interested into trading in and out of those. I'm expecting the pizza pets thing, so that might be huge. Opium versus puppets, I would definitely choose puppets. I have a very simple criteria. Just go on 7 or 30-day volume and you'll see who's on top. And the price difference is not that big. You're pretty much getting at almost the same price. And the exit liquidity on opium is much lower. So, this is it. On the rune side, things have been getting really interesting. Dog to the moon has been lagging, but this could catch up. But I think it's been lagging because of the main narratives with the pup thing. So the pups token finished their migration. They have around 8 to 10% that people didn't migrate. There was some FUD, but honestly, I like the move. They're going to use the funds for exchange listings and for liquidity providing. And I think in general, the token side, we just need one listing and everything will go nuts. Trust me. We have the playbook with Ordi. If you haven't seen me, but talking about this, you obviously haven't been around. But yeah, I've been talking about this. If we get just one catalyst listed on Binance, everything will go nuts, or most of the main tokens will go nuts. And you can follow the same principle. Just go on the 7 day of like volume page, and then just sorry and then just pick some of the top ones if you haven't gotten an entry. And I think you wouldn't be making a mistake. I positioned on pups somewhere around 16 cents. So on the sats side, I started scaling in like 180 sats to something to 10 to 20, somewhere around this area. It's been doing all right. Now we're seeing the breakout. I again wouldn't be surprised if we get a pullback uh, before the actual potential listing. So any pullback, I think, on this is a buy, a strong buy. I would be expecting for this level to hold somewhere around 270. So if we get near there, yeah, and if you don't have pups, I think this is the token you really need to have in your runes portfolio. Farmer Joe is insane. He knows the environment and the market so well. He's been doing it so well. So I don't want to fade him at all. And I think he will deliver with pups once again. And also, one tip, I'm buying some of it on Solana because obviously runes will have a swap at some point, hopefully by Magic Eden. But I don't want to be betting just on that. Solana is so much easier to get in and get out. And you get pretty much the same chart there. So yeah, this is the one. Then obviously $1 billion cat. I like this chart and just like the meme. Like if you see this very clean chart, I started scaling around 70 sats, but I'm still buying. Like I'm still DCing into this. It's at 100 mil. The potential is real for a billion, if you ask me. And the meme that they have going on, I think it could play out. So this is a 10x even from here. But if we see a breakout here, I think it's a strong buy, this one. But again, if we chop around here, it will just give us a bit more time to accumulate and potentially, if this lines up with a nice correction on Bitcoin and we get another entry around like 110, 120, that would be insane. I would be definitely buying this up. And yeah, it's one of the best tokens if you ask me, compared to like market cap to potential. It's great. I added a bit more Cypher. This is an AI play at a 1.3 million. So my average is probably around two, if I remember, two sats. Now we're breaking out. Still a bit risky play. I know some of you are buying it down low here, like in the zero point 0.8 sats. But for me, this was like bleeding slowly into a spiral of death that we've seen so many runes do. But now that it's got some positive price action and correction now, it feels a lot more confident, to scale into this one and just wait and see. Because imagine this goes to like 10 mil, even from here, that's not that big of a market cap to be like the main AI rune. Crazy. But as you can tell, probably, I'm super bullish on the entire space. You just need to be really strict. I'm honestly considering doing some videos just for educational purposes, and show people like setups to trade during bull markets, how to manage mental side like FOMO and their positions during this insane bull run that I hope we're gonna get. So if you guys are interested in this, just let me know. I'll do some videos about it. And yeah, it's on the token side. If you ask me like what's the best risk to reward on the market overall, because there's so many things, I would definitely say runes, just because we have so many catalysts. Like potentially, first of all, Magic Eden, it's got the swap function. Hopefully by the end of the year, maybe they're slowing it down because they're also working on their airdrop. But if we get a proper swap where we could provide liquidity, gain, um, what is it called? Fees from providing liquidity, and if we could just easily swap between those, that would be a game changer in the space. And Magic Eden is delivering. Like you can now buy stuff with protection, so nobody will snipe it for you, which was a huge problem in the past. And now this has been resolved, and this means that people that are sniping will actually have to buy themselves as well, not snipe from others. And I think that's very positive. And if we get the swaps, and if we get a listing on a major exchange, at least one rune to list, there are just so many things that could happen. And this entire space is currently at 1.3 billion. And half of it is actually, docked to the moon at 400 mil. And then you got Pop's World Peace at 270. So like two tokens make up half of this. Imagine how many of those will go ballistic. I imagine it will be just at least a few. One of them, obviously, I think will be Gizmo. Obviously, I have a back, but just again, look at the chart and it's Pop's narrative. It will be like the better play, and it's at a much lower market cap. So yeah, I think this is the space to focus. I'm still scaling into runes because my exposure is not at the level that I would like to, but we'll see. I see a question. What about the wizard? Do you believe they plan to migrate it? Yeah, they announced they're gonna migrate. I don't like that it's so far out, the migration. I think they will deliver. Potentially, it just doesn't make sense for them not to deliver. It will be just very stupid. Price has been volatile after the announcement. They have the best ticker, obviously, Magic Internet Money. It's absolutely the best ticker in the business, if you ask me. But I don't know if they're gonna deliver on the price action side. Like, what will be the catalysts that will move, for example, Gizmo, which is established as a free mint? They don't have a JPEGs behind that going to get allocation and so on and so on. Or are they going to replicate PUPs? Or maybe it will be too late in February, because after that you have just maybe several or a few more months of a bull market. So it'll be very interesting dynamic. I do have some. I actually reduced my exposure to Wizard at the BRC, but I think it's worth having some. Although the valuation currently is quite high, I think it's at around 130, 140 mil. And honestly, if you put a gun to my head and if I want billion dollar cat at pretty much the same valuation or wizard, I would pick billion dollar cat just because it's simpler, it's community driven, their memes have been on point. Every time that there has been a team behind some of those, except for pups, honestly, they've shit the bed. simply put. So I think the level of like people, project founders in the space is not very high. There are obviously some good founders. I don't want to shit on everybody, but like I'm just gonna refer to Decentraland and RSIC after the migration, and Satoshi and Feihu and all of those.